Everyone can build a drone, but no one has built a solution yet that fully automates the operation. Open up a lid, put it in your package or pick it up and then close the lid. And that's it. That's it. Very seamless process. And the rest is done fully automatically, and go do it after graduation because you have nothing to lose. I was kind of bored and I wanted to do something else that can actually shape our society, do stuff that has nothing to do with the general academic path, and you can transport any type of good to any location in the world within just one day. All of them struggled. No one had it easy. And in this 3 years, we just received the approval to fly in cities now. So,
Cem, I really appreciate your time. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Welcome to our podcast. How would your closest friends describe you?
How would I? Yeah, good question. I would say ambitious, a dreamer maybe, but also down to earth, and always in optimistic realism that I use every day. So maybe in a nutshell.
So, Cem, I believe we're shaped by our environment. How do you think your environment shaped your personality and set you on the path of entrepreneurship? Maybe what were the influences your family had on your school, your friends, etc.?
Yeah, good question. I mean, to be honest, when I started studying, entrepreneurship was not on my mind. I think for most people it isn't, and especially for most people with a migrant background, it isn't, because, well, you are almost forced to go for the safe path because your parents didn't have the possibility for a safe path. So I was born here, of course, in Germany. I went to school here. I went to the higher education, so Gymnasium in Germany. Did my Abitur, and then I started studying in Aachen. So it's a typical academic career, and then after your master's, you would normally start working in a corporate, maybe with a safe job, a safe income, a safe and good income, so that you basically achieve what your parents have dreamt of for you. But for some reason, I didn't do it. I went a different path. I started Urban Ray right after my graduation, so it's not the typical path. How did it come here? To be honest, during my studies, I did a lot of extracurricular activities. In Aachen, you have the possibility to do a lot of different stuff next to your studies. I engaged myself in student organizations. I actually co-founded a startup during my studies. So almost all the time stuff that has nothing to do with the normal path. I was happier than doing stuff that had nothing to do with the normal path. And so for me, it was a clear thing to stay on this path, because afterwards, right after graduation, I was like, what do I do? And doing Urban Ray made more sense to me, yes. So it's tough to say if there's a specific thing that shaped my environment to lead me to entrepreneurship. But for some reason, I took this path, and I'm very happy about it. Yeah.
So you will say it was very intrinsic, rather than an extrinsic influence, right?
You could say that, because I didn't feel comfortable on the safe path, so to say.
Okay.
It was comfortable is maybe the wrong word. I was kind of bored. It is, for example, if you look into aerospace engineering, which I studied, most of aerospace is defense related, and you have to be okay with defense if you want to do it. I didn't want to do defense, so I wanted to do always I wanted to stay in the civil path. But the civil use cases are, you either go to Airbus or DLR or whatsoever, and you work in big teams on one specific component. It's not that thrilling, to be honest. So I was kind of bored, and I wanted to do something else that can actually shape our society with technologies from the sky. And if you want to do that, you have to do stuff that has nothing to do with the general academic path. And that's why I engage myself, as I said, in these student organizations, tried my way into different things. Of course, I passed my exams somehow, but next to it, I always try to meet new people, learn new stuff that has nothing to do with my studies. And it could be, you could say it was intrinsic, yes.
I want to come back to your immigrant history. You're a second generation immigrant. How do you think that shaped your path to entrepreneurship, or generally your personality?
I mean, it definitely shaped a lot of my being. Of course, maybe I myself, I realized how much it shaped me on the hindsight, because while you're a young student growing up, you don't realize that there's a difference in experiencing life when you're a migrant. You don't see what is fair and what is unfair, or what's typically unfair because you are a migrant. You can't realize it while you're young. At least it wasn't. I wasn't able to realize it while I was young. On hindsight, of course, you see the pattern. For example, when it was time from going from the first school to higher education to gymnasium, I know my mother fought for me and my sister to get into gymnasium, even though my grades were quite fine. But still, you are the Turkish guy, so of course you don't get the qualification for gymnasium, even though your grades are already okay, let's say, good enough. So these are the things. As a child, I didn't understand. I was in the fourth grade. I just passed it. And then, of course, I had a good summer, and the next summer I was in a different school. But what it took to get into this different school, I didn't see it. That was all my mom's doing. So, and same things, like the more you progress, the more you experience these things. You get the worst grade because they want to motivate you for the next time. So I would say all these minor things that are happening all the time, or that happened all the time, that made me more resilient. Because I mean, if your path is always harder and you still go that path, of course, you're more resilient than the one who didn't experience so many obstacles. And this resilience over time, also during my studies, because I was the first one to study, of course, no one told me about campus life, even words like immatriculation and stuff. That was completely new for me. I mean, it's like, you're there and there are new words and you feel like, okay, what is that? And so all these things, they made me more resilient. And with that resilience, maybe that also brought me again towards entrepreneurship, because that's super important to be resilient. You face so many obstacles, and at some point I got to a point now where I see a problem, and I don't think that this problem is impossible to solve. There's always a solution, and that's the definition of being resilient, of not fearing any problem and just tackle it right away.
That's also why I asked this question, because I think, immigrants are underestimated often. And as Harry Stebbings once said, being underestimated is often good, because it grows your ambition. You, after your studies, you started Urban Ray. What is Urban Ray, and what excites you the most about the work you're doing at Urban Ray?
So Urban Ray, it's basically a logistics airline, but for cities, and fully autonomous. You could basically say it's kind of like Waymo or Uber, but for the skies in logistics. So we've developed two systems, a locker similar to a DHL locker, that everyone knows, of course, but it's super fancy because it has a landing pad and it can interact with drones. Drones are flying couriers that transport stuff from A to B within a city, starting with medical goods, so transporting laboratory samples, pathological samples, medicine, etc. in the healthcare sector in cities, and then over time growing, as I said, similar like Waymo and Uber, growing within the network, adding more verticals, adding more transport volume into the network, and then utilizing the network at its maximum, and using the full capacity of the network. That's what we're aiming for. That's why I always like to say it's kind of a logistics airline. These smaller lockers that are handling all the cargo, and then the drones that are transporting goods all the time, always in the sky, fully autonomous, no person involved. So true disruption in the supply chain. And yeah, that's what we're doing. And I love it, of course, because it's technologies from the sky, as I said, and can actually help all of us, all within our society. Everything will be accelerated, and with acceleration comes more economic prosperity. And within our first vertical, the healthcare sector, there it's super important because every sample you transport, behind it there is a person, patient that needs an analysis as quick as possible, the right treatment as quick as possible. And even if you can, any minute you can actually save on transportation is a minute one for the patient. And that's highly motivating, to be honest. Before we started, we actually did internships in hospitals and laboratories to understand the processes better. We talked to management, we talked to the personnel there. And it was frightening to see the condition the logistics sector is in at the moment. And yeah, it's different thing. Like every time it's hard, something comes up at Urban Ray that is hard. I think about, I actually think back about to the internships and what we experienced there. And then I'm like, okay, hey, this is completely worth it. Even if it's just one patient that we're saving, it's completely worth it. And that's why, it's beautiful because it really Urban Ray really underlines my overall idea of doing something that I like, but with a motivation, with a purpose behind it. And Urban Ray, truly matches my interests in that regard.
Very interesting. I love tangible products generally. So you studied mechanical engineering at one of best universities for it in Germany. I can understand that, you maybe understood everything about the technical part of it, but how is it possible business-wise as a graduate to start such a business, a deep tech startup?
Well, I mean, you learn it. You learn it on the fly, of course. I mean, what helps is we have 3 co-founders. So there's one, of course, we have all the technical background, but not all of us are at the same technical level, to be honest. Henry, for example, my co-founder and CTO, he is, in my opinion, one of the best engineers in Germany overall, but in Aachen, definitely one of the best. He's been building model planes since the age of 6, so he knows how to actually fly this stuff and build this stuff. He dreams of drones, to be honest. It's not a joke. So he knows how to build it. Then I have Fabian on our side. Fabian is our COO and co-founder, and he's mainly working on this theoretical operations part, so getting it into the sky regulatory-wise. That again needs some technical background, but your core skill is something else. It's this precise working through documents, lobbying maybe even. So really understanding the human behind the regulations, and then getting it authorized, which we got, to be honest. It's quite cool. We are now allowed to fly in urban areas, but more about that later maybe. And then it's me who, due to all the extracurricular activities I did, of course, I have my technical background, but I did so many things that have nothing to do with engineering that I got quite okay with storytelling, so to say. And so I'm the one selling it. And with this in this combination, you have Henry building it, Fabian implementing it, and me selling it. It's still diverse. three different perspectives on stuff, but with a common denominator, the technical background. So we have really quick decision-making processes. We understand what's going on, and the rest is just learning, and talking to others who have done it before. Always really, you have to understand you don't know everything. So it's really important to talk to potential investors, other founders who worked in this field, other mentors in general, corporate veterans, maybe even, that always like to help. I haven't met anyone who didn't want to help, and then over time, you get better with every conversation you take, you do, and with every milestone you achieve, you just learn and get better. Yeah.
And how do you approach those mentors or investors generally? What are your advices for that?
I mean, look into what they've done before. It should be preferably in the similar fields, and your questions should be of course, match their skill set or their experience. If it's about fundraising, for example, then talk to founders who have raised a few rounds, or maybe ex-founders who are now investors, even who are now on the other side. If it's about sales, especially, we have a tangible asset, but we sell a service. So how does that match? I mean, a service-based sales approach, but with a tangible asset. Talk to someone who has done it before. I mean, there are companies who have similar things, and that just have to be similar in a far distance. Doesn't have to be a very, very precise or same product maybe. And then research them, and then just contact them. Most of them are always keen to help because they struggled themselves, especially founders. All of them struggled. No one had it easy. Someone helped them on the journey so far, and that's why they are always keen to just give feedback or just help. And with that conversation, new doors open up.
So you approach them cold?
I mean, through an intro is also possible. LinkedIn is super. You can see who is connected to the person already, and then you can just ask them for an intro. But even a cold approach helps if it's just a genuine interest in help. If you're hiding in an investment ask, maybe people understand it. People see like, okay, hey, he just wants to raise from me, and then and he's just hiding it through some feedback question whatsoever. Be genuinely interested in the feedback and understand, and maybe that's the biggest thing, accept and understand that you cannot know everything. It's not possible. You need mentors, especially as a first-time founder. And with that, you will get better. So, and that's why if you understand this, your request will be genuine intrinsically anyway.
So let's say you want to approach someone to invest in your startup. Do you approach them and say, hey, would you like to be my sparring partner, or would you like to have to give us a feedback, or how is your approach to for an investor, a potential investor? Always as a sparring partner approaching them, or directly saying, hey, I would like to raise?
I mean, if it's an investor, of course, try to get a warm intro, definitely, and then specifically say what you are interested in. Like, if you're not interested in feedback, if it's an investor you are asking for, then you are interested in an investment, and that should be clear. I honestly, if you have access to intros, that's the first thing. If you don't have access to intros, then try to get access to them first. Don't ask for that's something else. That's a different question. If you're asking people who are maybe well connected, who don't invest themselves, it's completely fine. But then ask them for feedback. These are the persons you ask for feedback. These are the persons you ask to be your sparring partner. And then if everything is cool, they themselves would basically say, hey, I have someone in mind who could be interested in this. Most of the time that happens. But if you have access to this network already, then just ask for a specific intro, and then in this specific intro, ask for a specific funding ask, and not nothing else. Then everything else is just a waste of time and really not the professional manner of doing work in that regard.
Let's say there is someone now listening to us who wants to start a drone startup. You already mentioned that there are a few regulations and bureaucratic stuff. But what were the challenges you had?
I mean, you have to realize if you start such a company right after graduation, and next to internships and working student relationships, that's your only work experience. So you don't have decades of experience at Airbus certifying stuff. Yeah, it's tough. It's gonna be super, super tough because it's aerospace, it's aviation, civil aviation, and it has to be super safe. Of course, it won't be easy. What we did is, we had great timing because when we started, there was this new regulatory framework for such operations, to get drone operations, especially even in cities, authorized. That was completely new back then. Of course, the national aviation bodies, they still had to gain some experience with it, but at least there was a framework. Before that, it was not possible to get it approved. But now, since 2021, there was this framework that they newly established. So when we started, we could just read through all the documents, which we did. We read through all the documents to understand what it takes to get such a thing authorized, and then created an approach on how tech development and regulations have to work like hand in hand, and to streamline this process, of course, but at the same time talking to regulators. Even there are a lot of events where you can talk to regulators, even participate in some workshops themselves, and give yourself gives legit feedback on how to approach next regulatory steps, maybe. So it's a mix of networking with the regulators, talking to them, having a good relationship to them, because then they will help you a bit more. They are doing a great work. They want to establish it, and as long as you're keen on learning and making safe operations a reality, they will definitely be more interested to help you. Doing your job by reading the documents, having this human component, and by talking to the regulators and taking part in such events, and then it still takes time. It still takes time. We incorporated the company in 2022, April 2022. Now it's almost 3 years that we exist. And in this 3 years, we just received the approval to fly in cities now. So it took some time and effort, and we did it from scratch. And of course, with maximum capital efficiency, because we don't have the funding volume of Airbus. But yeah, we did it. It takes time, and it's possible. But yeah, it's hard work. Not gonna lie.
Talking about funding, I heard from a few deep tech founders that they're even not talking to German investors because German investors are not willing to invest that much money that you need to. How is it for you?
It depends on the type of investor, to be honest. Funds are different. I mean, most people when they talk about investors, most people talk about VCs. There's a clear difference between VCs in Germany or Europe and the US. The US funds are risk takers, definitely. They don't care, and they actually follow the framework that you have to have this one fund returner, and they don't mind if 10 companies go down, but at least one goes 100x or whatsoever. They go for this framework, and it works. It works because who cares? You can actually get money, the significant amount of money, for something that has just a very low chance of being possible at the end. But I think the main difference why that's the case in the US is most funds, or a lot of funds, are managed by people who have founding experience themselves. So they generally are, every founder is open for risk, risk takers. And if the funds are managed by these people, of course, they are risk takers too. And that's why, it's maybe easier to get some conviction for a risky bet in the US than here. But that's not impossible to get it here as well. It's just because even going to the US, it's not just, I will go to the US and that's done. you still need a network there. You still need access to the investors there, because there's a massive ocean of good founders and good ideas in the US as well. So your competition is different. There you have to network with the people who give you intros. The investors are really quick in decision making, and maybe they take the risk quicker than others. But of course, you're still on the huge pile of emails. You have to be on the top of the inbox and have to be taken seriously, and that's done through a very good intro. So of course you need your network there as well, but on a different kind. Here it's more networking with the investors. It's risk averse, definitely. It's tougher to raise here for stuff that seems to be hard. It's also kind of a bubble as well. So of course, if everyone invests in AI, then the main thing everyone talks about is AI. So it's even harder to get into into this bubble if it's not AI. Just as a general thing. But that's how it is. If you know the rules, if you know this, then you can actually prepare your fundraising strategy to fulfill this, to match the rules basically. But it's true. We don't talk to US investors yet. To be honest, it's on our mind. But again, it's a different thing then. It's a different pitch, different story, different network. You either go full US and then maybe some European investors will follow, or just focus on Europe. And for us, we like Europe, to be honest. And we have a great idea that is actually at the moment just possible in Europe, because in the US, the regulations are much worse when it comes to drone operations. Of course, at some point they will follow. And I think with the Trump administration at the moment, I mean, you can think of Trump what you want, but it could be that the FAA there is also quicker in streamlining drone operations. And then we might even go for the US right away, because then if it's the same regulatory framework, there's more money. You could actually, you have to really sit down and think about the strategy, moving abroad. But that's something, these are a lot of ifs. We'll see in a year or so if we'll do it or not.
By the way, you talked about AI. Is your product somehow leveraged by AI?
Yes, but it's the logistics operation behind it. It's not the drone itself. The drone itself is quite dumb, to be honest. It doesn't have any decision-making power. It just follows its regular its flight corridor. And it's easy because the takeoff and landing spots are always defined. It's always these lockers. And that's why even if you grow your network is always a network of predefined routes. And that's why it's really easy to say, okay, the drone flies now this route and then the next route and so on. The decision which drone goes there, that will be done by, of course, AI-enhanced logistics operations. Because at some point, if you really want to scale these operations, it's just a matter of software, how much you can scale, and software can be scaled even further if you use some algorithms, some more intelligent algorithms to enhance it. But that's the next step. Like at the moment, just flying a few routes, it's really simple. But over time, if you really want to have this maximum network utilization, then you go deeper into this AI path, and then it's much more. Also, for your offering for your customers, because you have full, absolute control about the flow of goods, about the flow of data. If you have all this data, you can actually use it again to, give your customers new traceability dashboards, maybe new ideas about then to order new stuff again. So a lot of different possibilities again with all the data that can be AI enhanced as well. So it's really in the logistics operations, in the software platform and the offering that you have for your customers, where you'll find the AI. In our case, in the flight itself or in the hardware itself, it's really just done. There's nothing decision-making going on.
Is the hardware somehow different to other drones?
the design itself is not that different. I mean, it's quite conventional. What is maybe different is that our drone can actually, again, land and be fully automatically handled by our locker. That's on us. No one can do it as efficiently as us. Our lockers are also like that's the USP basically. Everyone can build a drone, but no one has built a solution yet that fully automates the operation. So you really, in our case, you get more logistics without ever seeing it, without ever touching it. You will never have any contact to the drone itself, to the flying courier. It's always to the locker, some terminal. You open up a lid, put in your package or pick it up, and then close the lid, and that's it. That's it. Very seamless process, and the rest is done fully automatically, and that's something that our locker enables. Not the drone itself, to be honest. The drone is really, I mean, 95% I think of it is off the shelf, even all the components. That's not the craziest part. The automation behind it, that's on us. That's what we do.
So it's more software, right?
Exactly. Or hardware-enabled software in the end.
Okay. So these drones, they can only fly for now only 30 kilometers. How are the routes planned? Are they flying from one package station to the other and then by another drone from another package station to the next one, or how is that?
It depends. I mean, it depends on the network utilization. But in the beginning, it's if you start in our beachhead market, the healthcare sector, it's just a hub and spoke system. So you have a central laboratory of pathology, to which a lot of hospitals are transporting stuff. Also, the clinical pharmacy, which are transporting goods from a central distribution center to the hospitals. So it's quite clear how you're building the routes. And then you have goods coming in your system, and our system will prioritize where the drones are going next. If it's an emergency good, of course, we have to go there next. If it's something that can wait maybe half an hour, you can go there maybe half an hour later. And that's, again, logistics operations. That's, again, software only. If you need to grow more in the system to actually utilize everything and in a short amount of time, then you just put in one more drone into the system. But where the drones are going next, it depends on the logistics operation behind it. It will be interesting if you have more verticals. If it's not only healthcare, but you have a few more stuff like industrial goods or e-commerce goods whatsoever, because the idea is that the same drones are being used for other goods as well. The lockers are fixed, but the drones are always in the sky doing some delivery, maybe first a medical good, then some spare part, then a new pair of shoes, and then again a blood sample. It depends where they're needed next. And with that, they are always moving within the city where it's needed next. And best would be to go to a locker, which is just 1 kilometer away. So it's really, that will be the key part. Again, that will be the key part. There you'll again find the AI in it, but that's the next step again. And in our vision, everything is that connected that these lockers are also outside of cities, so at distribution hubs or airports, for example, so that you can connect these fully automated urban network to the global supply chain. Because then you yourself could basically go to one locker and say, okay, I want to transport a good now. I want to transport it to my friend in San Francisco, for example. And then you put it in there, and within one day, it will be in San Francisco in another urban rail locker in SF. So it's really, that's the vision behind it. That's a fully connected world. And we're doing it by enabling this aerial layer and then embedding it into the current infrastructure.
Okay, so you started with healthcare in the healthcare space, and healthcare in Germany is very conservative. How do you sell to them?
Well, it's actually a misconception because yes, they are conservative. That's true, but they also like to tend to use new technologies if it helps their patients, and if it's somehow some reason your processes get more efficient, cheaper, or whatsoever. And ours makes completely sense to them. It's just, okay, of course I get much, much quicker feedback from my patients. That's one thing. It's more reliable. My driver maybe has problems, maybe is sick or whatsoever, and I need to find a new driver. The drone will never be sick. It's available 24/7 and ad hoc, so at any time. Of course, it's basically pipe delivery just through the air, and everyone understands pipe delivery because they have it in their house most of the time. The hospitals or the laboratories, they have pipe delivery, and that's what they understand. So the service that they would offer is much, much better. And then we also say, hey, you don't have to change any processes. You don't have to learn how to deal with a drone. You don't have to get trained or whatsoever. You just go to this locker. Before that, you gave it to some taxi driver, a courier driver. Now you just put it into the locker and that's it. So without any process changes, you get a much better experience. And for the same price, we don't even charge more. We just say, hey, for the same price. Yeah, it's an offer you can't refuse to take. And that's how in general you will find your champion within this. Most medical directors, for example, or logistics, head of logistics within the hospitals or laboratories. And then if you have your champion, you address over time the managing directors, and then you will step by step convince them. Yeah.
Wait, how are the drones charged actually? By the packed station, or how is that?
Yeah, within this locker basically. Yeah, the station the drone lands and will get a new battery and a new package, and then can fly right away. So within a minute, it's ready for the next delivery, and the old battery is being charged within the locker. So yeah, the next time the drone comes, there's a new fully loaded battery waiting for it.
And there are no humans involved in this processes?
Nothing. Completely automatic.
Crazy. Why did you start in healthcare?
For many reasons. First, public acceptance. It's a new technology. We don't want to throw it into the cities as scooters. And people, we've seen it with the scooters. They've thrown them into the Rhine River, for example, or whatsoever. It's a new thing. And people tend to accept new technologies if it's for health, because it doesn't want more health, let's face it. And also rescue helicopters or ambulances. We accept these within our city experience. So that's one thing. Second thing, next to the general problems that logistics have, logistics in cities is completely over capacity. You don't have the people to transport all the goods that they have. The streets are full. You have a lot of traffic congestions. It's a huge, huge problem in general for any type of logistics case. But here comes another aspect. Again, behind every good that you're transporting, there is a human life involved. That's why it has a different kind of urgency. And with that urgency comes a different readiness of paying. So of course, and trying out. So it's really, it is not only publicly accepted, it's also economically viable for us to start in this sector and to grow within this, to grow our network in a profitable manner and not in a deficient manner. And then step by step growing into the other verticals with more transport volumes, maybe with lower margins. But if you start from somewhere that has higher margins, it's better to go. It's more sustainable business model, so to say. And that's what we learned by doing the internships. Before that, it wasn't clear. It was clear we tackle logistics in general, but where to start? And that's through the internships. For market research, we understood quite quickly it's the perfect market to start. It has really, they are more willing to try these things out than any other company. Sometimes corporates are slower, to be honest. Innovation in corporates is way, way slower. It really helps people. And with that, will have, accelerate the acceptance even further, because you can see, okay, hey, cool, I got out earlier from the hospital because I got my analysis much quicker. Of course, through word of mouth, people will like it. It has many good aspects, good arguments why to start in healthcare, and we are really looking forward to it to start now. It's really will be happening quite soon here in Germany.
What's really interesting, you're based in Cologne. So Deep Tech is mostly based in Munich, in Germany. Why did you start in Cologne?
I mean, we studied in Aachen, all of us. So initially it started in Aachen as well.
Yeah.
And Aachen also puts out a lot of deep tech companies, or founders at least. It is also a great place to start your company. But if you want to grow it, we realized quickly, okay, over time, we should move to a city where, you can grow your company. You can, because company building is much more than just, some initial grants at the beginning. And the city really makes a difference there. And the closest one was Cologne. We also looked into maybe moving to Munich or maybe Berlin or whatsoever, following the money. And yes, you could maybe fundraise easier there. It has a different network, but again, it comes with different obstacles. Cost of living is different. The competition with other startups that are similar, that try to hire similar people. So you have a war for talents as well. So a lot of aspects, honestly, where we said, okay, why should we go into the bubbles? It is why not go to a city that doesn't expect us? So and Cologne is perfect, to be honest. Cologne is perfect. We are not influenced by any bubble. We just do our thing. Our own. I mean, it's always our own strategy. If we need more input, we talk to the people in Berlin. We talk to the people in Munich, definitely. But in the end, it's just our own thinking of, okay, how can we approach this? We talk to all the people here who are more diverse. I mean, to be honest, it's not a tech-heavy city. It's any kind of person that you will find here. And of course, they ask other questions. They don't ask about the power levels of your drone. They ask about stuff like, okay, and how, like, will it take a picture of myself? It's a different question, but this different question helps you again. It's cool. It's nice to be here. And it's also our home. NRW is our home. We didn't want to go too far away. And North Rhine-Westphalia is also one of the most, especially the Ruhr Valley, is one of the most populated areas in the world. Yeah. So, of course, it's perfect for us. It's a perfect region to start as well. For many reasons, we decided to stay here. And the best city in NRW, in our opinion, was Cologne. And that's why we went to Cologne.
Okay, I come from Düsseldorf, so I don't agree.
My pity. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope you're fine.
So, Cem, you have two drones. If I've understood it correctly, the jelly one and the urban one, right? What are the differences?
Both are for urban operations. Mm-hmm. The jelly is the newer model. But it's really just working. To be honest, it works. It's a good courier. It's a good flying courier. Has a certain distance, certain speed that helps us in the operations. But in the future, we see that you can actually even increase all these aspects, even fly quicker, transport more goods. So many different ideas that we have, but it's R&D. So R&D, you normally do this while having constant operations that work, and that earn you some money. And our focus is on this. And then in the future, we might even go further for the array. But at the moment, it's just focus on the jelly. But both are for urban operations. Just one is better. It's like a better engineering product. But again, good business decision would be not to go for the better engineering product, just to go for that works reliably and safely, and everything is good. But you can optimize your operations, and you can even get more out of it if you go for a better drone. But that could be something in the future. We'll see. Maybe let's see. Honestly, I don't know how the drones will look like after having like hundreds of routes already active. Could be that there will be a third or fourth drone. Who knows? Or maybe others will build the drones for us, because our key USP is the locker. As long as the I mean, we have the IP. We know how to actually build a drone that can interact with our locker. If there's someone who sticks to this interface, maybe we can work with them as well. So let's see. It's the drone again. It's just the courier, not the main aspect.
So Cem, that's a really asset-heavy business and really R&D heavy, isn't it?
I mean, of course, it's a bit more. It's in the beginning. It's more development. Yes, that's true. Asset heavy. I mean, it's a balancing thing. To be honest, how to actually finance everything. The lockers, the drones are really not that expensive. To be honest, it's really the payback period is super short, and the lockers themselves. There are multiple ways of financing these, so that it's not that asset heavy anymore, or that you're not as reliant on capital from external providers. There are different ways, of course, but yeah, it's not completely software. Of course, it's different. It's different in that regard. But to be honest, we are solving like one of the biggest issues ever, logistics. And if you really want to truly disrupt something, you have to go the hard way. And the hard way in this case is, hard and tangible. So yeah.
Okay, very insightful. So we just talked about future. What's the really long-term vision of Urban Ray? And do you want to expand to taxi drones somewhere, or military purposes? How is it?
So our vision again, we call it making goods accessible anytime for everyone. That's what we say. It's a fully connected world. Really, again, my vision, you can transport any type of good to any location in the world within just one day. That's our vision. That only works through automation, and automation begins in the skies. In the future, it can be also ground-based automation. Everything is possible, but the beginning is we have to unlock the aerial dimension. We have to fully automate the handling of this aerial dimension, and we have to start within urban areas because that's where you have the biggest problems. And then you connect the urban areas to the global supply chain. So that's again, as I said before, through maybe locations outside of the city as well, and then step by step maybe other types of transportation as well. If you have this fully connected world, honestly, again, like a good success anytime for everyone, that's something more people will have the same level of access to goods. The economic prosperity will go up for every level of the society. It is in the end, a major infrastructure play that will definitely reduce CO2 emissions everywhere. That will also enable new business models again, because the accessibility is there again. And again, just healthcare alone, major impact just for how people will be actually treated in the end. But yeah, the vision is this: every delivery from one location to another will not take longer than a day. Transportation of people, much harder. Maybe for other companies, not something we want to do, and we don't need as much R&D to get there, to be honest, and not that much money. I'm joking sometimes, but we fly more than the typical air taxi company, so it's easier to start here in this sector, and not be like for years just R&D and then try to switch to operations. We are now switching to operations mode, and we just had like a very short amount of development time. And military purposes, again, it's for us, it has you have to be cool with this. You have to be fine to go into the sector. Everyone talks about dual use. There is no dual use. It's just a branded aspect. Every machine you build in this unmanned field has a specific purpose, and it has completely different components because it has to be military grade, etc. So it's different. And if you go there, your whole structure, your company structure is different. Your whole company culture is different. The people you sell to are different. It's a different company. You have to pivot basically. And once you pivot, you have to be cool as a company to do this. So it's 2 points. Like it's the moral ethics behind it. And the second one is really strategic. Like we are truly pivoting. It's not both. You can't do both. It's very specific. If you do defense, everything has to tackle this. Everything, the whole structure, culture, your teams, the components, everything. You can't just do I want half of it is defense and everything else is civil. If you're at an Airbus level, like really big corporate, then of course. But even at Airbus level, you have Airbus Defense and Space as a completely different company. It's their own subsidiary, and then there's the civil company basically. So these are different things. They are clearly separated because, again, different cultures, different teams, etc. And people have to realize you can't just do both. It's really super hard to do both.
I think quantum systems is at least trying to do both. They often say we also use it for civil purposes.
I mean, I know the people from quantum systems, and I mean, they're one of the few companies in the sector that are profitable and that are huge. But yeah, the main revenue stream comes from the defense sector, and there's a reason for this. And if you look into the culture and the organization, it's matching the defense sector. And that's completely fine. They have done a really good job at this. Like, it's a good product, it's a good tech, and it's perfectly pivoted into this sector. Especially once the Ukraine war started, they did this pivot really, really good, to be honest. Because that was just civil. Because the idea of unmanned warfare wasn't there yet. With the Ukraine war, this came up, and there they positioned themselves perfectly. So yeah, of course. But I know that they're doing some civil parts as well, but again, the whole company is structured to match the defense requirements, and that's where we make most of the money, and that's completely fine. Again, it's just you can see in the revenue streams the difference, and then you'll realize, okay, it's hard to do both at the same level. It's really hard.
Actually, Quantum Systems is a very interesting company. I love it, and I can imagine that your Turkish parents are very proud of you. I'm just wondering, how did they react to your decision to found a company right after your studies without making any money from it?
They didn't like it. Of course, it's again, it's not the safe path. Imagine you took every step to get to this safe and good paying job, and then you don't choose that specific job. You go for the other shit that is it's not earning you much, it's not giving you much, but that's because they had more hardships to get here. And they did everything they could so that us children basically have a better life. And of course, how do they perceive this better life? If you have a house, a nice car, a family, whatsoever. Like, this is the typical stuff.
Being a doctor.
Huh?
Being a doctor.
For example. I mean, I am an engineer, but I'm not earning as an engineer. Like, it's different, yeah? And that's why, of course, they didn't like it. What they can't see, though, and I understand why they can't see it, is the experience that I gain, the learning curve that I have here, the network I get over time. That's basically as if your career path just accelerates. It's like if you're always on the fast lane on the autobahn. Of course, it doesn't earn you much. But what it gives you, again, experience, network, and skills, that's something that will bring you a completely different level over time. So even if I choose to go for a safer job, it would be at a different level because I come with different skills now. I come with different experiences now. And that's what I got. And I would always recommend everyone who has a good idea to go do it after graduation, because you have nothing to lose. Because my lifestyle was still just having a shared flat, so not that expensive. I didn't have a house to pay off. Don't have children to feed. Nothing. It's super cheap. So you have really nothing to lose. You can just gain. You can always gain. Your safety net is a normal, good-paying corporate job. And the more you work in this uncomfortable environment, your safety net gets better too. Because again, new experiences, new skills, and so on. So my parents don't see it, of course, because I don't have this fancy car outside of my...
Still.
I mean, they understand it, but they don't see it. They don't perceive it. If I would have a house now, again, like a fancy car in front of the door, it's different. They would say, okay, maybe it's not a bad path.
So they don't care about drones. They only care about house.
They like it. They like it. They like the idea, and I think, of course, yeah. But of course, they wish to see the absolute safety, and yeah, of course, it's not the absolute safe path. Even though your safety net is quite good, but it's just an abstract safety net. It's not something visible. And yeah, they come from a different life and they understand why they think about it. They support me, of course. But yeah, they didn't like the idea. And at the moment it's like, okay, let's see how far it will go. But yeah.
That was a perfect transition for me to wrap it up. Cem, that was a really insightful conversation about Urban Race vision and your mission to disrupt logistics. Before we wrap it up, what are your 3 biggest pieces of advice for young listeners, whether it's about starting a company or educating themselves for the future?
I always like to say, follow your passion, whatever it is, no matter how hard it seems, do what you like to do. That's honestly, it really will help and open doors that you can't see at the moment. That's one thing. Everything you do with passion, do it with a specific motivation and purpose, because then you will have the discipline to keep on if it's going hard. Definitely. As I said, if it's hard sometimes, I just think about how we will help at some point these people. It just motivates you. And the third part is, as I said also before in our conversation, you can't know everything. Ask for mentors, ask for experts. They will all help you, give you the right advice if they have the time for this. And if not, ask for anyone else. It's like feedback and mentoring sessions. They will open doors and expertise, give you expertise that you can't perceive at the moment. So these 3 things maybe will always, no matter which path you go, will definitely help you.
Cem, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. It was fun. Nice.
Thanks a lot.